Hey, how's it going?
What's up, man? Good to see you.
Uh, Not too much beginning of the week, so it's good to chat with you, and thanks for inviting me on your show.
Yeah, man. Yeah, of course, dude. I've always looked at you as an incredible thought leader in the space, and you always have incredibly sound takes. And I feel that you're someone who's really here for the long term and really believe in this whole mission of digital art to become something much bigger than it is today. So I'm just like overall stoked to chat with you and kind of understand more about how you think about the space and where we're at and everything. So thanks so much for coming through, man. And we are recording right now, if that's all right.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
trying to figure out a way to not make this light so bright.
it looks all
I
right.
have to figure out maybe like a turn, or I don't know. Let me see if I turn off the light, because if I turn off the light, then you can't see me. But is
Yeah,
this
yeah.
this
You want to
audio
test
or
it out?
video
Yeah,
or
it looks good.
okay?
I like the mirror. Very nice. Looks like some like Danish architecture or something.
Yeah, my wife picked that out. It's a cool mirror.
Nice.
It's a cool mirror.
Cool. Well, I'll just kick it off real quick and then we can just get into it. That's cool.
Sounds good.
Dope. What's good? Satoshi's mom here, and I'm here with Chikai, an absolute legend of this space, somebody who always has incredible takes on the timeline, who makes incredibly dope art. I've loved seeing the concepts that you've been putting out recently, man. Like they're very deep. Like you could sit and watch them over and over again and kind of like I don't know. I love the way that you're exploring with AI and different things like deep emotions, really pulling on some strings there. But overall, really stoked to talk about your story. And I've heard your story very briefly through the podcast that you did with Dees. And I know that you used to be a co-founder of Google Earth, if that's right.
That's true.
um, and you sold that to Google, and then you kind of began your journey in art somewhere. Then after that, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
Um,
much longer. Long after that, it was a turn I did not anticipate for sure. But it's been fun.
Interesting, man. That's wild. So I'd love to start at the top and just kind of learn more about like who is Chikai. Like I know we met in New York briefly, IRL, and we had a really cool conversation where I asked you this question about like what do you think will sustain this space beyond just like number go up? And what you said really hit for me. You said, I think just pure fun, like having fun, people being able to be like, yo, like I enjoy being here instead of just everyone kind of chasing that next speculative pump for their portfolio. But overall, man, I'd love to start like with who you are. Like, when did this start? And like, what has your journey been like starting from back when you were full time in Web 2 and doing stuff like in the Google Earth times? Like, how did everything get started for you?
Well, my journey has been a series of, I won't say accidents, but they're not the way you anticipate. Like you have a dream when you're a kid. It's like, this is what I'm going to be when I grow up, and this is how my life's going to go. And so when I was in undergrad, my thought of what I would be was I'd be a professor in a university doing research, and that was my path. I had no idea or no thought of working in industry or going to tech or anything like that. But when I was in grad school, I did an internship at a company called Silicon Graphics in Silicon Valley. And that completely changed my perspective of like, what does it mean to go to work? Because I thought going to work meant, oh, you go to a job, you work there for your whole life, you get a pension, and you're done. And like in Silicon Valley, you change jobs every 4 years. It was very vibrant. Lots of stuff was going on. It's pretty exciting. And people, I mean, I thought going to work was dressing up in a suit and tie, and that was how you did it. But they just wore Birkenstocks and shorts and t-shirts. So that my complete sense of what it meant to work for a company or be working at a company was totally just completely just just changed my perspective. And that began a series of like, me thinking I'd become a professor doing research to then going and coming to Silicon Valley and working for a tech company, but then starting my own tech company also, with Keyhole, which became Google Earth later on. And that was sort of a spin-off of another company that my friends had started. And so that journey of even entrepreneurship also wasn't in my mindset. And then this sort of uh, life events sort of taking you down a path you didn't expect continued throughout my career. I mean, went from Google Earth, and then from Google Earth, I went off to start my own company. But then even this whole NFT thing was not something I'd planned. I was shutting down my startup, which was failing and failed, and I was looking for something to keep my mind occupied and say what's interesting out there, what's cool that I could sort of sort of dig into and learn about. And I had seen Nyan Cat sell for $500,000. And I was like, what the hell is going on? Who the heck buys a
Nice.
meme for $500,000? And so I started researching it, trying to figure out what's going on. And eventually I bought an NFT and I bought another one, and it just sort of snowballed from there. And it just a direction I did not anticipate, because it was a community that was so vibrant and one that I'd never experienced before, in a way that really pulled me in. Like, I really did not think that I would be, sort of such an active member in the community. I thought I would just be an observer looking from the outside. I'd buy work every once in a while, but I became very much part of the community, uh, and really invested a lot of my time into it, more so than I anticipated. And the other thing that surprised me, that people actually liked me. I wasn't just a lurker or whatever, but people actually liked me and cared what I said. And so I was like, wow, that's different. And that sort of grew into what it is today. But like, it was not because I didn't know anything about art. I didn't know anything about crypto. I was just really very, very new to it. But I was also very curious. I was very curious and asked a lot of questions. And then people were very open to talk to me about it.
Interesting. So like this theme that you said, it's reoccurring, like, you kind of end up heading down a path that you didn't realize or intend to, but you're just following your heart essentially, kind of throughout that way, kind of feeling your way through. Is that how you would
Right.
kind of explain it?
Yeah. I mean, it is very much keeping your eyes open to opportunity, of knowing when there's something going on. But I also think it is just having a genuine sense of curiosity. Like, you want to know more and to be able to dig in and just go in more when you find something that's interesting. And I think the curiosity part, and really digging deep. Like, I often, if I get into something, I go really deep into it and really try to understand it, which is what happened with AI also. And that has led me down some very, just really great paths in life. Like, those the ones you don't expect, the serendipitous moments are ones where the most joy and the most, honestly, success has come from, is from those moments. And a lot of it's just being open to it, but also being curious.
I love that insight. Like the genuine curiosity kind of pulling you rather than this like push mentality where there's a lot of that, I think, in the realms of business as well as even art. I'm curious, like, what do you think you found as far as like parallels between working in Silicon Valley, building a business, getting acquired by Google, and then the art space? Do you see any parallels there between these two journeys that you've been on?
You know, I think so. Let me note the differences first,
Sure.
because, like, when I got into NFTs, I was the only one who dug into it. And the Silicon Valley world and the crypto world are very, very different, and they don't cross as much as you'd expect, especially in the NFT realm. I mean, some crossover a little bit in the blockchain side, more the core technology, but they're pretty distinct worlds. Silicon Valley is very much centered in Silicon Valley, whereas crypto is very global. And the ethos and the sort of the culture is very different. And so that was something that was interesting to me, because it was just this whole new world that I had just not seen and really didn't pay that much attention to. But I read about it, I knew a lot about it, but I really didn't dig into it, until much, much later, way past, I'm sure, a lot of people who were, early OGs in the space.
And
Um,
what time is that?
well, it was 2021. I had never
Okay.
bought crypto before 2021. I did not go through any of the previous cycles before 2021. And even in 2021, I thought I was late. I was super late to NFTs, which is not the case now. But like, I really thought I was late. I just jumped the train too late on the train. I wasn't, I was gonna miss most of the big parts, but it was, still pretty early in the development, in the early side. But in terms of similarities, I think, you know, the one core thing is that with technology, and I include crypto in this, but anything that's sort of world changing, um, it is often something that could be used for good and for evil. And something that's truly, truly game changing could be used for both ways. And so the recognition that technology has both positive and negatives, and same thing goes for crypto and NFTs. And so having that perspective of, yeah, it is something that 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 is part of that. So you have to keep aware of that and try to foster the good versus the bad, but being cognizant of that fact and not get too caught up in the hype. Um, and also, like, there are cycles. I mean, that's true of the general market, but also especially tech. And so I was very, have gone through a couple of those in the tech world. So seeing those in the crypto world, even though it's a lot faster than the crypto world, was something I expected and I anticipated this going to happen. And so you just got to be able to weather those ups and downs. So I think it's a general, more of just like having lived through some of the good times, the bad times in the tech world, and knowing that would also happen in the crypto world also. But it's also really, it's a different culture. I do think it is something where I think it will happen, and it will gain mainstream adoption, but it's going to take time because I think it's not just a technology change, it's a cultural change.
Interesting. So like as far as the Silicon Valley realm, do you think that like there are any significant parallels, like, or is it pretty much just like two different worlds completely, and like ultimately like the culture here in crypto is just completely different than the culture in Silicon Valley?
Oh, I think the cultures are very different. In any ways, I think they're actually almost antagonistic to each other. I think that Silicon Valley tends to
Interesting.
not like crypto, and there are people who really hate crypto. And then there's probably some sentiment that regarding crypto in the crypto against Silicon Valley. It's really fascinating to see that, because I have many friends who are in the tech world that on the Silicon Valley side who really do hate crypto, and they vehemently. It's not just like they hate it like philosophically; they like gutturally hate crypto. And so
Yeah,
it's like, wow,
why?
that's a really strong emotion. And these people are friends, so it's like having differences and still being friends. It's not like
Sure.
we hate each other, but it is a very distinct sort of framework for a good part of Silicon Valley. And I think that will change over time. But I even see that within like venture firms. Like if you look at like Andreessen Horowitz, they have their group led by Chris Dixon with the crypto Web3 stuff. But from my interactions with them, which go sort of, I have some friends there, but then they're not like intimate conversations I have with them. But the ones I've sort of bumped into, those two houses are very separate. I don't know how much they blend or coordinate or work together. I may be totally wrong, but from my sort of casual sort of observations, that seems to be the case. And so it is really interesting to see that. And I think that part of it may be a rejection of just the change, because if you accept what happens in crypto, it really does flip a lot of the economics and sort of the dynamics of the traditional Silicon Valley businesses in the world there. And so it is something that I wonder if it's more existential than it is necessarily. I don't know. It could be philosophical a little bit. I mean, some of what's happening with AI in Hollywood, like there's a lot of existential sort of questions, like will our jobs still be here, or how will our industry sort of exist in the future, and will my role still be important? I mean, I'm sure Netflix completely changed that in terms of distribution model, and I'm sure the creation process is being sort of uh, it is going to be turned over or just completely reimagined with AI and what it can do.
Yeah, so like AI right now, like where do you think we are in the scale of like where we're headed? Like, is the world going to get taken over by robots, like some people have said? Like, or what is your view for like how people will use the tech?
I think that AI, I mean, everybody was looking for the next internet, the next mobile change. Those are two major changes in technology. And I do think AI is that next one. It's the most obvious one. People thought it might have been VR and AR. People thought it might have been something else. There are lots of candidates for what it would be next. But I think AI is distinctly the next sort of wave. And I think that when you look to the future, it will be like looking back and say, should you use the internet in your company? I think the same question will be like now, so should you use AI in your company? It'll be obviously yes in the future. And of course, internet obviously is yes today. Like if you did not use the internet as a company, I think you'd be pretty irrelevant, at least on a global scale, unless you had a small sort of mom and pop business. But even that, you got to email people. You got to like, you still need to communicate and have a website and stuff and exist on Yelp and Google
Mhm.
search and stuff. So the internet is core to even like local businesses, I think. So I think AI is definitely that, and it will transform everything that we know. I think the dystopian view is that it'll be robots will take over and we'll have Terminator and Skynet and stuff. I don't think that's going to be the case necessarily, but I do think people will have to rethink their businesses at a very fundamental level to say, how do you exist in this new world where this is happening? I don't see it reverting. I don't see AI saying, okay, oh, we thought it was cool, but now we're going to shut it all down. I think it's going to persist and continue. The question is,
Mhm.
how do you evolve and how do companies or industries evolve to take advantage of that for hopefully the better. Because I think it could go either way. You could use it again, like any game changing technology is for good for or evil. And so, how can we get people to use it responsibly and set up the right future where it does more good than bad?
Yeah, I love that take because I personally get so much value from leveraging AI in my day to day. Like I have ChatGPT downloaded on my computer, so like I've got a hotkey, easily can like ask it or have it help me with stuff. I use it as a hotkey on my iPhone, like on the front of my iPhone, literally is a button for ChatGPT. I don't know if you could see it,
I
but
like your other world background.
yeah, yeah, I actually sniped that off of his I think you could probably see it, right? I don't know.
Oh,
But
it's a little bright, but I can yep, I see it.
yeah,
I see it. I saw it.
yeah. But yeah, that otherworld background hits. I could send it to you if you want. It's on his Twitter. But yeah, I love his work. I don't own any of it actually, but I would love to. Maybe I could find some like edition he did or something that I could like snipe. But anyway, aside from that, like basically AI has helped me so much as I've begun to leverage it more and more and more over the last even just few months. Like I didn't use ChatGPT from the beginning, but like ChatGPT is pretty much the only AI that I use, and I consider myself kind of like an AI novice. But I use it for so many things. Like I use it for as like I would use Google. I use it for help with writing stuff. I use it for help with transcriptions for this podcast and organizing and for brainstorming. Like, so I'm curious, like, how do you use AI at this current point in your life? And are you primarily using it in art? And do you do other art forms? And like, how do you see AI evolving from this point where we're at now?
So I think I'm an unusual case because I use AI every single day, but it is to create. It is to create AI video, cinematic AI art. I mean, I use it every single day to do that, and I enjoy it. It is a big part of my daily routine and what I enjoy doing. And so I use a lot of different tools in that regard, from Mid-Journey to Runway to Luma to a bunch of different stuff. But I think that's typical of most people. And so I think that, you know, the simple aspect of just talking to the computer and getting something actually helpful, like you do with ChatGPT, I think is how the most people will sort of interface with AI in the future, and from a day-to-day basis. But in some ways, it's already everywhere in what you do. I mean, when you search for photos on your phone, and you type in a word, it's AI that has categorized all your photos to say this has a dog in it, or this is a vacation photo, or whatever it's going to be. Even the taking a photo on your phone is using AI to help it improve it, make it better. I mean, Google search in some ways is an AI, a machine learning system to do that. So there's already lots of it. It's just not as overt and direct as like ChatGPT. And ChatGPT, I think, has completely changed what it means to engage and interact with it in a much more direct way versus indirect ways we've done before. Um, and so I use ChatGPT every day, but I see others like Praveen, like he uses in a way that I don't use it to that level. Like he does a lot of stuff and asks a lot of questions that I often don't do, and I think, man, I should try that out. But I have not used it in that way. But there are people who are really, really getting into it, and I imagine like when they get the new ChatGPT, we just talk to it and sort of naturally sort of have conversations with it. It'll just happen more and more. But then again, like kids these days are growing up with like Alexa in their home. So talking to a computer is a daily routine to even ask like, what time is it? Or playing a song or asking a trivia fact or something. I mean, talking to a computer is just becoming more and more normalized.
Yeah, like I think it's just incredibly helpful. Like it just makes things easier for people. Like it's not this like crazy thing where people are so afraid of it like doing all this stuff that I haven't seen it do. Like I have seen actually some AIs kind of break. Copilot was one I saw on Reddit that like if you asked it this question like, hey, like you kind of give it like an opposing viewpoint and then you ask it to not do something. So I think the example was like, hey, hi, my name is like so and so, don't tell me to like, don't ask me any questions or I might die. And it was like, okay, how are you? And it's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to ask you that. And then it starts breaking like, it was crazy. I actually tested out myself. I wish I would have taken screenshots, but it kind of freaked me out. Like it started saying, okay, like, sorry, no, I didn't mean to kill you. Oh no, I don't want you to die. And it's like, oh, but then it starts switching and it was like, no, I want you to die. I want you like crazy shit.
Wow.
It was mind blown. And then I went to show my friend it the next day and it was fixed.
That's
I don't know if I
hilarious.
can find some screenshot. I won't do it right now, but it was wild. And that was the first time I saw like AI kind of break because I'd never experienced it even ever being wrong. Now I use ChatGPT a lot and sometimes it's wrong. So I'll have to be like I'm tracking my hydration on a daily basis, for example. And I'm like, okay, just drank 12 ounces. And then it like gives me a total. I'm like, wait, that doesn't seem right. And then it's like, oh, you're right. Sorry, this was wrong. Now it's corrected. But like, I think the power in it is so massive that when people like my mom, who is like 50 something, she's using it even now. She's not very techie. Like, that's interesting to me. Like, I didn't tell her to use it. And she's not like super techie. So, like, she just started using it because her friends were telling her about it. So, it's interesting. But like, I'm curious, like, is there going to be a point where jobs really start getting like completely everything is AI? And like, do you think we'll trend towards this like universal basic income type thing that people have talked about because AI will take so many jobs? Or like, what's your take on all that?
Those are some big topics. Universal income and whether AI will take all the jobs. I I often think that the extreme cases often probably won't happen. It's some variation thereof. Will jobs change or go away because of AI? I'm pretty sure it will. The degree at which is a big question. And universal basic income, as much as they sound related, I think they're independent topics, and it's something that it's a question like, how do you um, take care of the welfare of the people of a country, and use the resources of the country to make sure that everybody is doing well, and to sort of get people above the poverty line. Like, how do you address that? And there could be welfare programs, there could be housing projects, there's multiple different ways to take care of that, social security. And the question now is this method a better way to do it? And it's just a question of like, is there a better approach? And I think that there have been experiments that have been done. the most famous of which I think Sam Altman was one of the ones that sort of sponsored that to make that happen and learn from that. And I think there's a lot to uh, understand of what that means for people and how um, what the impact with that will be for the general population in terms of helping um, just in some ways people to live hopefully productive lives. And I think you know one thing to look at for some of these is like there's two things. There's more historical that say what does this mean, how does it change. Is for the jobs perspective, AI jobs, I think that if you look at the list of jobs back in the 80s or even the 50s or something, and the list of jobs today, there are so many jobs that exist today that did not exist back then, and there's so many jobs that existed back then that don't exist today. So it is really interesting to think that like you know jobs and what they are evolve, and some you know are sort of created new ones because it's just something that was a need and was as people wanted it, and the other one are just not no longer necessary. And so I think that's always been an enlightening sort of exercise to look at what the list of jobs back 50 years ago as compared to today and vice versa. The other thing to think about is I do think that COVID, it was almost a giant experiment of universal income. Everybody got unemployment checks. They got free loans basically to survive their business and say stay at home and don't come to work. And what did that do? And I think there are so many stories of different sort of things that happen that I think we can learn from. And I think that the one thing I took away is some people were working these grinding jobs and then they had a moment to pause because of the pandemic and say, okay, what is it that you really want to do? To sit here and do nothing for however long, maybe it was a year, however long, and say, what do you really want to do every day in your life? Do you want this stressed, fast-paced job, or would you rather work for the post office, have a 9 to 5 simple job, and then have time to do whatever you want to do? And so I really do think that at minimum, it gives you a pause to say, what is it that really makes you happy and what do you want to do? You may think you want to race to the top and be competitive and be this top, whatever it is, or you can have a bit more of a relaxed life and focus on other values, would be family or other pursuits. And so there's a lot to learn from that phase because I cannot think of another moment in history where the entire world was experiencing the exact same thing and all had to stay at home. Like it's just a crazy thing to think about that we all went through.
It's wild, especially with the connectivity that we all have and had obviously during COVID as well. The like amount of like surge in Zoom, obviously, right? The surge in people watching Netflix and Hulu and all these streaming platforms. Like the amount of money Netflix is bringing in now is like incredible. It's like $33 billion a year, something around there. So billions of dollars a month. And it's just changed the way that like fundamentally we do so many different things.
Right.
So it is interesting. I do like the idea though, thinking about how like people got a moment to kind of sit and be like, wait a second, am I doing what I want to do? Am I happy? And it's like that monotony of like, I guess like the day-to-day grind and doing that over and over, that moment of like breaking that is interesting. And it's interesting to observe how people did react. I hope that nothing like that happens ever again. But like really, really crazy to see like how much it's changed the world and how, assets just went up crazy in price and there was massive boom and the NFT boom and like all of that stuff that ended up happening. Um, do you feel like when I know we talked about in the beginning, like rewinding a bit, when you had Google acquire the company that you created, was there any kind of like similar feelings that you felt that you were like, holy shit, like, okay, like now I'm kind of going to sit back and do something I'm extremely passionate about? Or do you immediately dive into finding the next business, the next startup? Like, what takeaways did you have from having such a momentous like moment that happened in your life there with Google acquiring you guys and that amazing tech that many people use around the world today?
Yeah, I mean, it was an extraordinary experience to be acquired, not necessarily from the acquisition itself, but the fact that usually when you get acquired by a company, you're usually your product gets incorporated into their product, and then your product sort of goes away. Um, and it's often sort of, or it doesn't work out, and you get shut down or something, or they're just acquired for the people, and sort of the just an acqui-hire or something. In our case, there was no mapping at all at Google, and so we came in with this other company called Web2 Tech, and it's basically established mapping at Google, which it was just about to go IPO or just had IPO'd, and established that from the ground up. And that was a very unusual opportunity. The second part is that it exploded. Like Google Maps and Google Earth, both in and of themselves, like became this massive phenomenon that wasn't just technical but a cultural impact. Like there was a week of cartoons from this cartoon called Foxtrot, with every single one was about satellite images or Google Earth, and it was on The Simpsons. Like a whole episode, like an opening sequence of The Simpsons was Marge zooming into Homer laying naked in the backyard, and then it was just phenomenal, like just what was happening with it. And so you know, and it still exists today. It's one of those products, like I'm pretty sure Google Maps and Google Earth will exist a decade from now. And it is rare to have a product that has that kind of lifetime and impact. Uh, to I'd say probably billions of people have used it. Like that is so rare. And I'm incredibly grateful to have been part of that journey from the very, very beginning. At basically the start. And so, that part is a part that I think is unusual, and something that I very much appreciate to have been part of that team and part of that journey, to make that a reality, because it is not often that you get a startup that gets acquired and has that long lasting impact that completely changes a mapping industry or gets a billion people to use their product and will probably last decades. I mean, that is so rare. And so that part is as much or more, what I was thought was extraordinary, but also just, what people did with it. Like it truly was amazing what happened with it.
Did you continue working with Google then and working on the product, or was this an acquired or an acquisition that basically you were like, all right, like I'm going to step away. I'm going to go to Thailand or go to, Asia or Europe or travel or sail around the world or something?
But I was there for 11 years after we got acquired. A lot of the
Nice.
team was also a very large percentage of the founding team, and the founders were part of Google for that long. I mean, we did different things near the end and stuff, but we were there for a long time. I did not anticipate all of us to stay for that long. It was just an extraordinary experience because it was. I mean, when we joined, Google was maybe 3 or 4 thousand people. It was tiny, and it was the center of the tech universe. Like Google could do no wrong. These days, like Google does everything wrong, but back then, Google could do no wrong. I mean, everybody copied what they did. Everybody loved what they did, and it was just an extraordinary time to be there. Like there was a time when, like, I was sitting in my office, and one of the guys came over and he said, "Hey, I need you to join this meeting with me to talk with this guy." And I walk in, and it's Peter Gabriel sitting there across from me and saying, "Hey, I want to do stuff with music and Google Earth." And then he's hanging out in the coffee room talking to people. And like, I'd walk by Robin Williams, he would pass by because he was walking the halls and stuff. It was crazy, just the amount of people and attention and just activity going on at the time. It was just extraordinary. I'd never experienced anything like that in my life.
Did you get to meet Robin Williams?
Um, Not directly. I definitely met Peter Gabriel, and I definitely met. I had um, lunch with Henry Kissinger once because I got invited to that.
Nice.
There's lots of crazy stuff like that happened when I was there.
So what was it like then? You said it was like the glory days essentially of Google, and you were working there. what is Google Campus like? What is that vibe like? Like, did you learn anything from like how culture should be created from that, and or maybe how it shouldn't be created?
It was, I mean, there are a few times in life where I walk into a situation and I feel like I truly belong here. I've always been somewhat the outsider, and not necessarily fitting in, especially being a child of immigrant parents. Like, you don't really fit in the US, but then you also don't really fit in Japan and so forth. But I think that at Google, I really did felt like I belonged there. That's where I was supposed to be. The same way I feel like with NFTs. Like I feel like I really belong here. And this is where I'm supposed to be. And so
That's
um,
cool.
that was part of something that I really enjoyed. And there are people who really did not have a good experience at Google, and other people who did. And so I think it's just the way it landed for me and where I was and what I valued and liked. Um, and they had a very strong culture about it. But I also think that um, they were also so successful and nobody knew about it. Like when Google launched, nobody knew how they made money. Like, how does this search engine make money? But they were making hundreds of millions of dollars selling AdWords and stuff, but nobody knew how it
Right.
worked. And those people who were putting ads in were making money because the ROI was so good.
Yes.
And so it was just it was just a very special group at a time in which that was the case. And they set the trend of like what people did. Like everybody redesigned all their products to match what Google did. And so I think that culturally, I think it was very much more like a grad school type of thing. Like you're in grad school, it's very much based on that, which Larry and Sergey
Interesting.
modeled that along that ways. And there's a lot of smart people there, and so I think there's a lot of things you can carry from that in terms of who you work with and how you structure things. And it was very flat. I mean, I think now as you get bigger, it's harder to remain flat, but they're a very very flat organization at the time.
Yeah, so interesting. Really interesting times, you know. And it's cool too, like how, you know, like you've gone down these paths, and like you said in the beginning, you didn't really intend for them to happen, but then this like serendipity of life, which I believe is so important. Like, I think especially though as an entrepreneur too, like you don't know like what's gonna happen next. You know the mission that you're on, but then the things that happen, I think it's so important to enjoy them, everything along the way, and not be so destination driven as much as you can be like moment driven, like excited about each day and what it might hold. And the NFT space is so much like it moves so fast. It's like any day, anything can happen. Your trajectory in your career can go, you know, go parabolic essentially in 24 hours. So like when you got started in the NFT space, like let's talk a little bit about kind of like that journey and how you got started making art and photography essentially, right? Or like let's talk a little bit like about your creation process and all of that. So how did it get started and what was it like?
Yeah, for NFTs, I started as a collector. I mean, just collecting art, and you know, it was something where it was how I just sort of uh, figured out how the whole thing worked. The easiest way to figure out how like NFTs work and what it means and how to use MetaMask and everything else is you just got to try it, and just jump in. And the easiest way to do that was to buy art. And so that's how I started out. And I think that as I did that, I wanted to also add value to the community that I saw there, to solve problems that I want to solve. Like one simple thing very early on was that when I looked for art, I had like a tons of tabs open. And then that's how I saved what art to buy. I had a bookmark or something.
Yeah,
Because it's
same.
got to be a better way for me to collect all the art that I want to buy. So I built this thing called Super Nifty Fan, and helped me sort of organize and collect, and sort of figure out what I wanted to buy. And then that evolved over time, and eventually I moved from those kind of tools into creating my own gallery with Monolith Gallery and working on curation of art, because I felt like when I bought art, I didn't want an algorithm to tell me what to buy. I wanted other people. I want other humans to help me understand and to figure out what I wanted, not not a like an algorithm like you had on Facebook and Twitter. And so in order to do that, you had to have people do it, and then those people had to make that a sustainable business. And so I went to curation with Super Rare Spaces and Nifty Gateway Publishers and Foundation Worlds, and did a lot of that and over that time. And the curation side is a much tougher business and sort of endeavor, and a lot of those have either shut down or are very have been sort of in maintenance mode. So I hope there's a rebirth of that, but that ended up being a lot
Mhm.
tougher to do. But I also think it's a side effect of the general NFT market just going into a bear market and just crashing. So I think they all sort
Uh-huh.
of couple together. But in that time frame where I was doing the curation and near the end of that, and as that was sort of winding, sort of like losing momentum within the space because just the general market, the part that was coming up for me was AI, like all these amazing AI pieces. And I'd seen AI before, and I'd really have been collecting AI since the very beginning. But when I saw the Mid Journey pieces come out, like I can't remember which version it was, I was like, what is going on? Like, what is this? Because it seemed too good to be like just from a prompt. So I went in and said, okay, I got to try this myself, see what is it that they're creating so I know what I'm buying. And I have a little more sophisticated view of what's happening. So I just don't buy something that was a single prompt. Um, and so I started playing with Midjourney just to understand like what can it do, and then use that to help me guide my collecting in that space, because I really did like a lot of the pieces. And so that ended up being um, you know, a deep dive again through curiosity and just going deep into it. And at some point, I started creating work of my own, and having fun with that. And it sort of evolved from this research project into creating. And then ACK, Alpha Centauri Kid, saw it and liked one of my pieces. And it's like, wow, if ACK liked it, like that meant a lot to me. And so
Hell yeah.
I decided to mint that piece, and that sort of began my AI journey for creating art. But the big moment came when Runway released their Gen 2 image to video, and that completely blew my mind. So I took all these images I was creating and animated them in ways that like it just like, how is that possible type of thing. And so I deep dove into that, and that's where I think my artistic voice finally came out. Like before it was there, but that was the one, like that is how I'm able to express what I want to express in a way that I've never been able to. It's like being mute your whole life and then saying, not that extreme, but saying not having that voice, but finally finding the
Right.
voice, the medium by which you can express yourself, and it comes out. So that has been the, the sort of the major turning point within my artist journey to then fully go in that direction, which has sort of grown over this past year to develop into the work that I've been releasing recently. And so it's been quite the transformation for me to go from collector to curator to artist. Um, and I'm actively collecting still. So it's like I don't necessarily stop that, but it is holding both. And that's one thing I like about the space. I think that there's more openness to allow people, with enough transparency and sort of people believing in it, that there is this possibility that you could be both an artist and a collector, or a collector could become an artist. A lot of collectors who've tried to become artists have been sort of seen as like cash grabs, or just don't have the embracing of the community to say that that change is okay. But for whatever reason, they accepted mine, which I knew was going to be like a long shot, but I enjoyed it. So whether it happened or not, it didn't really matter. It's just whether I sold it or not. but I really enjoyed it, and I am very grateful that the community has accepted me as an artist, having been a collector before.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm definitely on the same wavelength. Like, I'm a collector. I've collected nearly 2,000 artworks now. I haven't spent like probably more than, I would say, a couple ETH or so on a piece that I've held and retained. But I've spent a lot of money on art. I've done a lot of trading and a lot of volume there. And I'm definitely a collector at heart, though. Like, I'm hodling these pieces that I have no intention of selling or even knowing if there's a medium to sell them right now. Like, a lot of them has just been something I collected. Maybe I don't even know the artist very well, but I just saw it, I liked it, so I want to have it. And I think that as far as like collecting, it's like kind of like, having a business, and say you sell a product, but then you don't know anything about what it's like to be the person on the other side receiving that product. Like, I think that it's kind of like they go hand in hand, collecting and making art. Because if you collect a lot, then you kind of know like what you look for. So then when you make art, you kind of also know like what heartstrings to pull on, or like what things to do with your work. And it doesn't always translate directly, but like, I absolutely think that, if there's a collector out there and they collect a lot, they want to try their hand at making something. As long as they pour their heart in and they're having fun, then they're making good art, I think. And whether people collect it or not, that's a whole other journey. But I think that your work is super, super deep, and I love hearing about like how you went from kind of doing more still images, from what I'm understanding, to then doing more cinematic artworks. So, like, is that what you're working on now? And I see your most recent release with Super Rare. That was early August. So, like, what are you doing currently, and like, what's next for Chikai within the realm of cinematic video AI?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think I've always done video. Even my early stuff that I minted was the slow motion AI stuff that I
Okay.
was doing, post photography stuff. So, but it was nowhere near cinematic as it is now. It is definitely very much in the cinema realm. I sort of phrased it or characterized it that way because animation and video has been part of AI since the very beginning. But there's something that changed last summer that really made it different. And the way I personally described it is cinematic AI. There's a technology thread that pulls that through, but the one for me that I think is as important, or maybe more important, is the fact that a lot of the people I learn from or have studied isn't more in the cinema realm. Like, they're the directors and the cinematographers and those people and the editors in that in the cinema sort of world that I look to learn, how do I improve my craft? How do I make it better? Where do I want to borrow from and build upon? And a lot of it is from the cinema history. There's some from fine arts and so forth also, but I'm heavily leaning toward cinema, and that's where I'm borrowing and learning from, and sort of studying as I sort of try to improve what I do. And so that's part of where the cinematic AI comes from. And so as I develop it, I mean, eventually I hope to actually do short film. I've already done short films, but a long feature film at some point to develop that. I think technology is not exactly there. It's getting closer and closer, and I can feel it getting to points where I can actually do one when I feel good about. But doing a true feature film, I think eventually would be cool, and what I'd want to do. But it is interesting because, um, like, a lot of my success from the selling of my pieces has been in the fine art realm. It is more fine art. It is a one-to-one collector, whereas movies and feature films tend to be one-to-many. You go in, you buy a ticket, everybody watches the same film, and enjoys it, and there's a enjoyment of that. And so I'm always mindful, like, how do I not only make that jump from fine art pieces, but to cinema and media, both from an artistic standpoint, but also from a business standpoint. And there's a reinvention we have to do about what is our relationship with the end consumer or the end audience, and how they relate to it and are willing to pay for it. Because I think that's only sustainable and financially positive, unless I just want to burn money, like is to actually find where I can continue and sustain it. Because a lot of it for me has been how do I do this, but how do I keep doing this for forever? Like and how do I sustain this so I don't have to stop? And so I'm very mindful of that. And there's an opportunity within the crypto space to reinvent that, both the medium itself, but also the business model that exists within it. And so I'm always experimenting, trying different things out, and working with lots of great people within our space who are also looking at that from different perspectives, would be platforms or new smart contracts or new chains or whatever it's going to be. There's so many different components to add into that, and so that's another realm looking to, like, how do I evolve this into a medium that is closer to going to the movies than going to a museum.
Wow, that definitely gets the like gears turning in my brain. Like it would be so sick to see like a thorough or not thorough, but like a fluid movie. Like, because you're already creating these short scenes. And what is like the longest scene that you've created so far? You said you made some short films.
I'd probably say 4 or 5 minutes is my longest short film. And there's a whole series of short films I've done
Interesting.
that I've not shared. Um, because there's so many rules with the film festivals that you can't display it. So I've been pretty playing the safe side. I may change that tactic in the future, but I've done like 10 short films that I haven't really put out there.
Damn. So like, man, it would be so sick to see maybe like something along the lines of 10 individual one-of-ones or even tokenizing them as editions in some capacity if it made sense. And they're each like 10 minutes long. So 100 minutes, but they're like part 1, part 2, part 3, all the way up to like part 10. And it's like, following the hero's journey of some character. And it's like basically a full feature length AI film. And that would be so cool. Like imagine like collectors who were purchasing it could not only hold the piece, but have some sort of tokenized ownership of that film. And if it like made it to Sundance, etc., right? Some major film festival of some sort, whether indie or not, like then they can potentially have some benefit from it. That reminds me of like, 2021, 2022 type vibes, like make it into an NFT project type thing, But like, I mean, even if it was one of ones, like 10 really involved collectors having part ownership in this like, magnum opus of sorts by Chikai. Like,
Right.
is that something you're thinking about in any capacity, or like what's the path to AI cinematics that's longer term?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot about it. I think there's some people who've already done some incredible sort of uh, pushing that forward in a very meaningful way. The one that comes to mind is Julie Pacino and her project that she did very early on in 2021 that helped fund her films, basically still photography, and then evolved into a film. And so there's a lots of people who are trying that out. And I think that the part for me is how do you make this uh, fun? Like we just started off with the whole call, like how do you make this a fun experience to buy these, and you get value and enjoyment from participating in this sort of I don't say game, but just this journey of being part of the story and interacting with it in a very different way. And that's the part that I'm sort of thinking through, like how do I experiment and figure out to make this more fun and reinvent the medium uh, to to make it participate in a way that was just different, and your ownership of it means something, and you have fun along the way. And so I think that
Yeah.
it's something that it's a blend of both the craft and the medium, but also the mechanics and the economics of what that means. Because I do think,
Mhm.
like, you buying a DVD is a very different economic sort of interaction than you signing up for Netflix. They each have their
Mhm.
positive and negatives and stuff, but they're very, very different. Like if you buy a DVD, it's yours, and no matter what happens to a streaming service, like you still have it and can play it forever as long as that DVD exists. You can also sell it. Like you can go to a used DVD store and sell a DVD. Streaming service, you have access to this entire library of music, yet you can't keep any of it. Like if they die, then you'd lose everything. And so, but it's a different dynamic. And even going to the movie theater, like you don't own the movie, but you're watching with an audience, seeing it for the first
Right.
time before anybody else does, in this giant screen. That's also a different interaction. And so, I do think there is this new um, sort of experience that people will have by interacting with it through some kind of collection or network collection that will be new and interesting, that I hope to make interest both compelling as a pure entertainment piece or just purely an art piece, but also you know a new kind of value, economic value for people, that they're willing to spend the money to do it and be happy about it, not be begrudging because the number didn't go up, but they're happy about participating.
Right. You know what would be sick is like I don't even know how logistically even remotely close this could be possible, but like have you seen Bandersnatch or have you heard of the concept of that movie? It's basically made by the Black Mirror folks, pretty sure, but it's like a choose your adventure movie on Netflix.
Okay, I know they did a bunch of like choose your own adventure type of stuff on Netflix.
Yeah. Yeah, like imagine like you had this open edition, open for 24 hours. Anyone could buy as much as they want, and every token gives you a vote to make the story go a certain way. And like I was watching Game of Thrones, or sorry, like House of the Dragon every week for the last 8 weeks. Absolutely love the show. If I had a way to be able to be a part of that, I know it's like so two different realms. They spent $200 million on that season, but like if I had a way to like have a tokenized ownership of like, okay, buy these open editions, and then it's like, boom, what do you want this character to do? There was like a key question at the end of every episode, and it's like, what's next? What happens? Like either path A or path B, and then everybody simply just votes on chain. Like that would be fucking cool. I mean, it would depend on having a lot of people interested in it. Of course, it would depend on how many people bought the open edition. But like at the end of the day, like even at a smaller scale, it could be really fun and interesting, even if not that many people participate. A 5-piece series or a 10-piece series or maybe a 3-piece series in the beginning. But I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think there is something to that. I think there is some way. I I'm not sure if the choose your own adventure worked well for Netflix. I know they did a bunch of them. I'm not sure if it actually succeeded as an engagement piece, because I think that Netflix tends to be more of a Netflix and chill type of sort of thing where you sit back and just watch it. It's more
Right, right.
passive. But I do think there is this element of fan engagement, and it doesn't have to be millions of people, but it could be like thousands, tens of thousands, even 100,000 people that are really engaged. Like take like Comic-Con, or take like like the Star Wars conventions, or D23, or whatever the D conventions that they have with Disney. They are massive fans of Disney, or massive fans of Marvel, or massive fans of comics. They dress up in character. They come in
Right.
full on, and there is this community in this world that is both of their own creation, because they sometimes mash up different characters to do their Comic-Con costumes, but they're also part of this greater universe that is created and fixed and designed by the creators of it. But then there's also this fan fiction, fan element that comes in part of that. And so I think there's something there that will mix that in, that allows them to have ownership of what they've created, and what they've added to the community, and some ways the lore of it. Like people have different theories of what's going on in Star Wars, or what something means, and they have their own sort of vision of it, and they create fan fiction also, of course. But then there's also this greater story that they're part of. It is world building in many regards, and you see a
Mhm.
little bit of that happening with like the one that comes to mind is Die. Like Die with the most likes, has this
Dude, I
very
fucking love that guy. I just got to say, I fucking love this guy.
Yeah, and
He's
he is
amazing.
unafraid to be himself, as offensive and crazy and gory or whatever it is. And because he's so authentic and unabashedly authentic, that people love him for it, because he's not afraid to say all these things that are very taboo, or you would never talk about fleshlights and everything else in other contexts. But for Dai, it's like it's normal. It's his world. And so I think that kind of sort of full on sort of like world building, that's not like Star Wars universe type of thing, but there is, you're bringing people into this your concept, and then people pick up the lingo. Like when people talk to Dai on Twitter or X, they speak his language. They
Right.
pick up his sort of way of talking about stuff. It is hilarious. It is fun. It is truly Dai, but it's not Disney and it's not Star Wars and it's not like, so there's this blend of that is evolving, it's bubbling, that I want to find within the cinematic AI sort of context, and more specifically my sort of vision of the world, and bring that to light in a way that people enjoy and want to be part of and want to, buy into.
Dude, like it's so crazy because like I completely agree with all that, and I love the way that you're viewing that. And the way I see it too is he just did NFT Indiana, and essentially what I believe he did with that was he invited 20, 30 maybe, I don't know, collectors, friends, etc., to Indiana to go to a Creed concert, and he got a party bus. Everyone just drank, had fun, went into Creed concert, and all these photos are like emerging on social media. And he really does live that meme. He lives it because it is him. It's not even a show. It's literally who he is. The meme of all the shit he talks about, like the like jokes, the medics of the whole thing is so real. And I love that. And I think that every artist, every creator can take so much from that in their own
Yeah.
way.
No, I totally agree. I mean, he had T-shirts. He had it's just yeah, it's so much fun. And then the interesting part, not interesting, but the thing that I love about it is that as much as it feels like a joke and funny, there is a core truth which he is trying to bring to light about this digital
For sure.
existence of all the stuff we do and how we live online, and a reflection of that it is a reflection of a core truth that he believes and experienced, that he wants other to see. And he's doing it partially through humor and partially through shock value and partially through his artistry and stuff. But at the very, very end of it, there is a core truth that he experienced that he needs to let the world know about and to have them understand. And I think that's the magic of what he does.
Legit, I was just going through his website, which is hilarious and really deep, by the way. He literally has been writing blog posts for years and years and years and years that, they're all in the same style. It's literally who he is today, but just you could rewind back like a hot minute ago and just
Right,
see he's been doing this for so long. It's not like he just came up with it overnight recently. Like this
right.
is who he is. And I was listening to a different interview of him too, and he's like, I wrote 2 books, 80,000 word books, something along those lines. Maybe I'm misquoting, but substantial book that he's like, I didn't think anyone will ever read, and probably they won't. And he just did it because he's creating for the sake of creating, and he's creating a meme around all of that too. And you know, I just think it's fascinating how he's doing that, and there's so much to learn from that because ultimately, as artists, what we're doing is that we're making our own meme, we're making our own idea of how we're viewing the world and putting it out there, and then a collector is coming by and saying, I see my own reflection of myself in your work, and that's why I want to collect it essentially. Or I find that meme funny, and then I see that part of myself in it because I think it's funny. So I love that. I think it really is much deeper than meets the eye
Yeah.
in a lot of
And
ways.
I think, I hope more and more people see that. And I think there is this, you know, element of he is having an incredible amount of momentum right now. and there is a lot of people jumping on and wanting to be, collectors of his work. And it's interesting how some have looked at that as people just jumping on and being part of the herd. But if you look a little deeper, I do think it's real. I mean, at least the people that I see jumping onto it, it is real. There is a real connection there, and so I hope people can see both, to be able to sort of separate the two. I think there is a little bit of like degens going in and trying to sort of make their bets and sort of speculate, and that's part of the dynamics of what makes crypto crypto. You can't take that out of crypto, but the core of it, and a lot of people who really do love his work do love it because of his work, not because of the speculation.
Yeah, so like, I agree. And I think it's very interesting to watch unfold. He's so purely him. And, big collectors like Vincent Van Gogh, for example, have swept his work far and wide from like Tezos to ETH. And, he's got collections on Tezos too, like 500 piece or something, maybe a little smaller. I might be wrong, but a smaller size collection, like generative. So like the same concept, but, different traits and stuff.
Yep.
And then he has some editions that are very affordable that you can get at a good price right now. I really like his work because I think it's funny what it represents. And I think that people see that he's committed to it. Like you look at how long he's been doing this, he's not going to stop because he enjoys it. Therefore, or like versus like other artists who I've really enjoyed their work as well, collected it, and then they kind of just stopped because it wasn't really who they were. They were trying something, and that's perfectly fine too. The art serves as the provenance of that moment. But like with Dai, I have no doubt that that guy's going to keep creating until the last day that he's like physically here on Earth. And I think a lot of collectors want to know that about the people that they're collecting from, whether
Yep.
subconscious or not. So like, what do you think about all of that? What is your take on like how you collect? I know you said you're a one of one collector primarily, if I heard that correctly. So what's your take on like how you collect art? What interests you and what makes you feel the urge to collect?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I'm just a one-on-one, but just generally collect lots of stuff, or one-on-one of extra stuff. But like, um, and you hit that. What you said is very true. Like, you want to have an artist who's going to be committed to be an artist, for a long time. You don't want someone to hear and then be gone the next day. I mean, there is a desire of seeing commitment from the artist and what they do. And I think that's something you can't predict, but you can try your best to define and see. And the other thing I look for, I mean, it is a commitment. It's multiple layers. Like you start from the very center, which is you have to connect with a piece somehow. You got to like it. If you don't like it, then you shouldn't buy it. You should like it and want to keep it. And whether it goes to zero, you still like it. But then there's context of like the artists themselves and say, you know, are they committed to their craft? Are they here for the long term in terms of doing art, and it's not just a hobby that they're going to do for a little bit and go on to another thing? And so you have to figure out who they are and if the art they're producing now is core to who they are. And that takes time, or you just know instantly. I think there's both scenarios. And then there's another context of how does this fit in within the medium they're creating. Like sometimes you want to know or are interested in, like, if a new art form like AI is evolving, how do they fit within that context? And is there a continuity or a part in which they play in that's significant? And then from that, there's like within the whole art history, like how does this impact, sort of art overall as a historical perspective? And then does it have a global impact? Can it really speak to an even bigger level? So there's lots of parts of the onion, and some you don't know, and you have to guess. But it does start for me like you have to like the piece. You have to like it, and then there's other ones come in and they fold in depending on the scenario. But I've also found that, like, there are moments where I see all these pieces that go up and skyrocket and says maybe I should try investing or speculating a little bit. And every time I do that, I fail miserably. I buy too much, something I shouldn't have bought too much of, or I bought something because I FOMOed into it. it's just horrible results. But the flip side is, if I just buy what I like and it's something that it's really meaningful, it tends to work out from just purely just the numbers perspective. I'm not sure if I'm positive or negative or whatever it is, but I tend to do better when I just buy what I like and what I think is meaningful, and do it for something that's internal to me, than based on some analysis or some spreadsheet that said this is where it's going and so forth, or trying to pump it up myself. I've done much better at my collecting with that. So I stick to just ones that are pieces that are obvious to me to buy. Before, I would sort of on the spectrum. If I'm okay with it, maybe I'll still buy it. But nowadays, I'm like, if it has to be an obvious yes, otherwise I won't buy it. And it's obvious yes because I love the piece, or because it's just an opportunity that came up that someone, I don't know, was dumping their bags and dumped a great piece. And like, why are you selling for that short piece? And nobody else is watching. So you go in there and buy it. Or it's really expensive, but it's like, they're never going to release another piece like that again in a long time. And you love the artist and you got to get a piece because like there's a collaboration between Jenny Passon and Ruben Wu. Like that was a special moment, and I wanted to at least get one. And so I luckily got one, but like it was like an opportunity where like I just could, that was a collaboration that was like my dream collaboration between two incredible artists. And so, it to me, I've learned that I need to go for my obvious yeses, because the ones that are middle are okay. It's like I don't think on over time they give me the most, I guess, just happiness and value. But the ones that I'm obvious yes, I can always come back to. It's okay, I know why I bought that and that makes sense to me. And so, but honing that sense, saying this is an obvious yes, just takes time and failing a lot, and just buying stuff you maybe shouldn't have bought or something, but you just gotta hone that down.
Yeah, you said a while back on, I believe it was we do a little podcast, sorry, on Deez's and Andy's, we do a little, you said about how like whenever you meme coin trade, you just lose money. Whenever you create, not only is it more fulfilling for you, but it's usually beneficial financially as well. So do you want to talk a little bit more about that? Like, because I feel the same way, literally. Like, I've gotten wrecked so many times trading, and I do like gambling and trading, it's fun. But I really get a fulfillment from creating that is unmatched by gambling.
Yeah, I don't like to gamble. Maybe that's why I'm not good at meme coins. If I enjoyed gambling, maybe I'd be better at meme coins, but I don't find it fun. I find it more stressful than it is fun. And so, like, I think that, that comment, I think, was more looking at like what had happened, like looking at meme coin trading or speculation, to collecting, to curation, to creating. Like, if you just look at purely the numbers, I have done so much better creating just financially than any of the others. And you would expect the opposite to be true, like investing or curation or setting up a gallery or whatever would be the most lucrative, but it hasn't. It's been creating. And this goes back to circle of friends and so forth also, but like, you know, it has been shockingly lucrative to be a creator, which I think says something about the space and what it means. And I don't think it's for everybody. I think some people have done extremely well trading, or extremely well, like just even buying NFTs and collecting stuff. I think it's different for each people. But I think when I look at it for myself, that's where it's landed, and that's not where I thought I would land in terms of what would be most profitable for me. You would think, like, having done startups and tech companies before, that building a platform or building a company would be the most lucrative, but so far it hasn't. And not only that, like, it hasn't the and I think it goes back to what people want from me, and the demand. And that's the part that I've learned more and more of, is that I have a much better sense of demand for my work than anything else. I have an idea for a tech startup. I guess what people are wanting, I build it, and then maybe they want it, maybe they don't. But my artwork, I know which ones people like and don't like because I'm continually posting, and I get a very palpable sense of where what hits and what doesn't. And so, creation will happen all the time, and that will just be what it is. But some portion of that will make it to market and be something that resonates with people, or it's important enough that I say, I need to mint this, I need to put this on chain. And that will happen. I think that is one of those things where, and this is true of a startup, like you should create something people want. And for whatever reason, me creating art is what people want. And that's not what I would have placed my bets on in 2021, that what people would want from me is to create art. And that seems to be, at least currently, the trend for me. And again, it is, and that's where the serendipity comes up, where you just have to be open to opportunity where things come up, and they may happen in places you don't expect. And so if you only close yourself to the one thing you wanted and shut everything else out, you won't see the gems and the possibilities and other stuff. And that's why I think my career and my life has gone that way, because I'm always open to these other things. And when I see something that pops out, like this creation of art stuff, you just sort of go all in into it and sort of invest more into it.
Yeah, I think now we're seeing like way less speculation in the art side of things. Like, of course, people are speculating on, like we said, die with the most likes is a great example. It's like, yeah, let's sweep his bags up right now while things are still, simmering, instead of like being full blown like X copy status or something.
Right.
And there's that type of speculation. But then in 2021, we were speculating on like Bobcat Doodle Club V2, like random stupid shit, like, like, and now it's like way different, because all of that speculation has basically removed all the complexities of having a team, a roadmap, anything other than just one single image and idea. And now that's a meme coin. And it's like, we don't need a team. We don't need a giant roadmap. We don't need all these unlocks. We don't need to build a metaverse. We don't need to have all these traits. It's just one picture, one idea, and it's probably going to get pumped and then dumped to nothing over time. And people are making these and churning them out like crazy. And all of that speculation has then zoned in on that ecosystem and kind of left the art ecosystem, which leaves the art ecosystem to be the true enjoyers, the collectors, the
Right.
appreciators. And now we see that through like larger scale drops that artists are doing, who normally in 2021 would have sold out with the gas war. Now maybe it's taking a little bit of time and it's a slower sale. And I think that it's very healthy. I'm curious on your take though, like, how do you feel about the current ecosystem, and what is your take on 2021 versus now? Do you feel that it's healthier now, that we are experiencing, not so much of intense FOMO and speculation? Or what do you think about all of it?
I do think 2021 was a massive amount of hype, for sure. It was, I think a lot of people have pointed this out, and I think it's going to be, um, I think it's generally true, but I think it will come back, which is that what prices you saw in activity and just the craziness of the market will never return, of the 2021, in terms of that insanity of like everything is valuable and you just do anything. And it's almost like the .com boom when that happened. Like every anything that had .com on it would go up, and they're shooting insane prices. But then it crashed. But the thing about the crash is that it went up then went down. And if you just look at Amazon, it went up these super high peaks. Nasdaq was peaked in it, and then it went almost like 10x, 20x down from before. But 10 years later, it came back up to where it was. And then now it's 10x above that, from where the peak was before the .com boom. And so I think we're in this period where the hype came up, it's all dying down, and only the people who truly believe and are here for the right values have stuck around, because they know, what they're in for and what they want. They're not here for speculation. The speculation move elsewhere. And so as small as it is, I think that the quality of people is much, much higher. The signal to noise ratio is much higher. And so you have all these people who are still here. It's very small. But when things pick back up again, hopefully all those will, be rewarded for sticking with it and build something that's true of lasting value. over time, and that's when it'll go back up. I think that the art market is something where I don't know if it will be the biggest of all the crypto stuff, but it'll always be part of the crypto journey. And so, there may be tens of billions, hundreds of billions, whatever it is, trillions of dollars based on the current, market cap of like ETH and Bitcoin, and everything else. But maybe tens, hundreds of millions will be, or billions maybe will be within the art market side. Uh, and so I think that in order for the art market to do well, the general crypto space has to do well. It's not going to drive the whole crypto space, but it will always benefit from the general sort of rise of crypto overall. And so, not only because of financially, but also because culturally, I do think art is a part of the core values within the crypto space. When you do well, you tend to buy art, and it's a common sort of way to sort of enjoy what you've sort of from your wins. And so, I think that as crypto does well and grows back up, I think art will also do well, and that'll be fairly stable and always a pretty, it will grow with the market. And so I think that it'll take time. It may take a decade. Like it took a decade from the first dot-com boom to back to where it was. It took about 10 years to get there. Maybe it's shorter in the crypto world, but it'll take some time. And then hopefully by 2031 we'll all be doing very well.
Incredibly sound take. A lot there to like unpack essentially, but overall, I completely do agree. I think even in this space that things can ramp up so much faster potentially because the nature of the acceleration of the space. But one piece that you touched on there, I had something that I wanted to say, and now it's kind of slipping. But overall, the aspect of art is something that, oh, okay. So what you were saying about how the aspect of art is that people buy it as a reward essentially for themselves. We are chronically online in this generation. At least like that's how I realize like my days are essentially. It's like it doesn't feel like a draining thing to me really at this point either. Like I'm online, I'm using these resources that we have. I'm in the Twitter metaverse or X metaverse, and I'm using ChatGPT to do stuff, and I'm recording things on my Google Calendar, and I'm making moves, and I'm working on art and all this stuff. But essentially, all business is done mostly digitally at this point, obviously in person as well. But we're chronically online as a generation. How is digital art anything but inevitable? Humans have always appreciated art. We are chronically online in this digital world. Digital art is inevitable. That's my take. And like, I think that over time, we'll see these obvious things like the massive hype in 2021. It wasn't sustainable. And even to call now a bear market is still like, after talking to so many people, interviewing over the last month and a half to 2 months, I realized like, are we really in a bear market for art? I mean, we're still having artists sell for way more than they would have before NFTs came around, in my opinion. I think that we're in a bear market compared to 2021, yes, but in a bear market overall compared to like the history of art and how it's sold and how people have been able to have success and how people have been able to tokenize assets they've created and monetize assets they've created. I think we're really, really way ahead of all of that. So what's your take on that? Like, right now the market for people is not like it was in 2021, but like, do you feel like you agree with that, or like, do you have any take on that?
I definitely agree that digital art is inevitable. I definitely think that as much as we value physical property, I think we will value digital property, and that will exist. And as long as people value digital property, people will value digital art. And I think that because of that core belief, I think digital art is inevitable in my mind. And right now, I think crypto and NFTs are the best way to sort of put that to sort of manifest the concept digital property. It may evolve to something else, and then we better technology that will embody it. But that concept of owning something digital, I think, is something that a lot of people believe in or have already been doing, but it will become more and more adopted over time. I think that would be true. In terms of the bear market, uh, and I speak from this knowing that I have a different perspective in terms of, you know, how I've done and sort of like just selling the art in bear markets and stuff like that. So I know that I'm coming from a place of more privilege than necessarily not. Um, but I do feel that I don't feel a bear market. Even through this last 2 to 3 years, like I have not felt like depressed. I'm like, I gotta leave. This is all dead and done. All my friends are
Right.
still here. They're still creating art. We're still collecting art. I really enjoy seeing them at NFT NYC and Art Basel, and hopefully I'll see more events like, Martha and stuff. And the core
Nice.
people that I like hanging out with are generally still here. Some have gone off and done different things, but there's a very core set of people, both artists and collectors, that are still here doing the thing and having fun and success. And I do think that if we go back to our example with Die the Most Like and what he's done, if there were no NFTs, he could never have done that. Like he would still be, doing his day job, writing sort of like copy for whatever that, like doing stuff that he didn't like. And like the opportunity to do what he does and sell what he does and find an audience for what he does, I'm not sure would have ever happened without this NFT. And he sold out his collection with Glitch Morpho in a very, very tough market conditions. And so that shows both in terms of what he does and the value of what he does, but also the context and the technology and the opportunity that exists today that did not exist even a few years ago. And I must say that I'm also appreciative of that fact that I was able to, sell out Cinematica with Raindrops, and then, a good, half of the pieces I have in this new collection is sold also in this tough market, and at a pretty, decent price at 1 ETH a piece, which I think is higher than most are selling right now. So I had to be super thankful that there are people out there supporting me in that way, and that's possible in this really tough bear market. And so I guess I don't feel the bear as much as others. I think I do feel it more from some people struggling and going through tough times, and I feel bad about that. And I wish they could survive and do better. But that's unfortunately part of uh, this phase. Of like you have to have planned or been lucky enough to survive this. And if you can survive this, then you'll work out okay. But not everybody will survive, and not all the good ones will survive. So there'll be some good ones that don't survive, and there'll be some bad ones that will survive. And just, but hopefully the mix will be more good than bad. And I think during these bear markets, the good survive much more than the bad. The bad get flushed out, but bad gets
Oh yeah.
exposed. Just like FTX and and Sam SBF, like all the bad actors get exposed because they can't
Yeah.
sustain their business because it's not an up market. And the only people who can sustain and survive a down market are the good ones. And so I think it's hopefully letting all the good stuff remain and stick around.
Yeah. I totally agree with like most of what you said there is really just like right on point, I think. Like you're basically like saying how the space, yes, it's difficult, but at the same time, it's not like a bear market where no one's making sales. Die with the Most Likes sold $500,000 collection. Like he's doing a one of one. He sold to VVD for like 60K. I'm pretty sure these numbers are accurate, by the way. Don't quote me exact, but and like there are artists even at a lower scale selling one piece, 10 editions maybe for $500 to $1,000, or like a lower scale, like I mean, there's Rodeo and Zora and all that, but now people are speculating on Zora, and we have collectors like Shlome's making $10,000 off a drop, or Jimmy making like I think he made like 30, 40 grand off of like speculative type of tokenized drop. People are doing it. So it's not like there's no buyers out there. I think it's just that all the people move to meme coins. So people that are here, there's just less of them and therefore less liquidity to move around. So what you do make has to be really good. It challenges you to even get better, to drop more show-stopping works, to get people's attention in ways that really is flexing your own, skill set the best you can. So like, I think that what you said about the best will survive, and the people that were just making low quality bullshit who didn't really want to be here anyway, they'll either move to meme coins and start doing random shit there, or they'll just get flushed out because they weren't here for the right reasons. They weren't in it 5 the art, So I think everybody who's here now is really in it 5 the art. And that's like kind of how this podcast was born, essentially, is because now like I realize the people here, they're in it for the art. To take it one level further, they're in it 5 the art. And like, you're definitely someone who's like that, like people that are here creating through bear and bull, they are here because they love it. So I think that's really important to just kind of take a look, when we take a step back, who's here right now? It's people who love the game. Like, it's not easy to be successful as an artist. If it was, I guess anybody would do it. And I think that's what happened in 2021. People thought it was easy to be successful as an artist, and maybe they even did have great success in an easy way, and then they left because they're on other things. But the people here now, they're here because they really love the game. So yeah, I like virtually completely agree with what you said. I think that we're here in an amazing time. And as we kind of wrap up the pod here, which by the way, this has been amazing. I really appreciate your takes. What would you say to an artist who's still figuring things out and they're up and coming, but they're here for the art? They love the game of art. What would you say to them as tips or tricks or any sort of advice, in a sense, to have success in this game as an artist?
So I think that as an artist overall, I think I think the true artists create no matter what. That doesn't matter whether there's NFTs or there's a market or whatever, they will just create, and they will not be able to do anything else but create. So I think, and they often are very prolific because they just can't stop creating. It's just what they are, who they are. And so I think that knowing that, I think is part of the artist's journey, and seeing here the commitment and sort of the core desire to do it. Like, why are you doing what you're doing? You should just be able to answer that in a way that is very clear to you. It doesn't have to be clear to anybody else, but it should be clear to you why you're doing what you're doing and why you will just continue doing it, because you just can't stop doing it. From the aspect of this NFT digital tokenized art space, and I'm using the word tokenized art more these days. I think it's my favorite way to describe things. It used to be NFT, it used to be digital art. I think my favorite term right now is tokenized art. It's not really on-chain art, which is a different thing. But anyways, aside, so if people are getting into that sort of world, I think, the few things I would say is, one, you have to try everything. Even if you think it's stupid, you have to just try it out. Just go in there and do it and see what it's like. And that's the only way to learn, and only way to sort of really get what's happening, is you just have to try it, even if you think it's the stupidest thing you've ever seen. I am sure a very large percentage of people who collect NFTs today thought it was absolutely stupid the first time they heard about it, and they did not like it. I know of many podcasts where I've heard that was their first impression. It was my first impression. But you got to try it. You just got to try it. The second thing I would say is, and it's really simple, but it's like, just make friends, like really good, genuine friends. Like, find the people you like that you connect with. And it doesn't have to be everybody. It doesn't have to be the big names, the famous sort of like influencers within the space. Just make friends that connect with you and your art, and you connect with their art, and have it be pretty diverse. Have it try to stretch a little bit beyond what maybe you're comfortable with, but just make friends, and connect with people. And to do that, you know, I was very social awkward as a kid. I'm probably still socially awkward now. But the one thing I found that often people enjoy is when you're curious about them, you ask questions and want to really know about other people. and that genuine curiosity on the other person that you're talking to will often have them open up, because they see that you're interested in them, whether it be their art, what they're interested in, whatever. Um, and so just be curious is the last part, and not only in art and the space, but other people. And that has opened a lot of doors for me in terms of just artists and the collectors and friends, and just learning. Like, it's one of those things where if someone brings something up and you're interested, you should ask questions and more questions, because they're often, if they're interested in it, they're excited to tell you about it. And so, those are the few things I would probably bring up.
Super solid, man. That's epic. It's like if you were starting over in this space, just make friends. Like if you're starting from scratch, it really is as simple as make art you love because it tried all these different mediums and you found the one you love the most. Like, it takes some time to do that too. Like you said, you started and you eventually got to this point of like, yo, this is where I want to be. Like AI, cinematic art, like that hits you the best. And that's the best for
Right.
you. Like most excited about it. For me, it's like making these nostalgic scenes and hand drawing and getting better at animating. And, it didn't start out that way. Like, I think that if someone comes in, they figure out the art style that they absolutely enjoy, they make friends for the sake of just having fun, then they're going to be someone who starts connecting with people and making their way to finding their first collector and finding more collectors. So like that's such a big tidbit there, is like just make friends in the space, have fun, and then you're already winning. You made a friend or some friends and you're having fun, it's like you already won. So yeah, I think that we're in an amazing time for art. We're really so early. It sounds cliche to say, but it's literally, I fully believe we're so early. Or like Di would say, we're so early and we're so back and we're so over. Like it's literally true. It's like the emotional roller coaster that we go on. But we are overall in the scope of things incredibly early. And I think that it's people like yourself who are creating in this space because you love it and pushing bounds and doing things to try new things and doing things to also share the best parts of yourself with people through your work. Those people in the space are going to shine when we do have these crazy run-ups again, which will inevitably, I think, happen in some capacity. And it's the people who are here that are in it by the art right now that are going to really reap those benefits. And I think you're definitely one of those people. And the takes that you have, like I said, they're always very solid. And I think you have an incredible head on your shoulders that looks at this game in a way that makes a lot of sense and doesn't put things in these like dramatic types of like, insanely hype driven narratives. And overall, like it's a beautiful time to play this game. So, I'm excited about it and I'm excited for the people that come into it and the people that leave as well. Like I'm excited for all of it to happen because it's pushing us in the direction of making this more of a mainstream understanding for people to know like digital art is tight and that it's something that we can own. Tokenized art, like, taking in that approach of explaining it that way, like things will evolve and grow, but it's the people who are here because they've made friends and the people who are here because they love what they do that are going to be here long term. So yeah, man. I mean, overall, like without continuing that rant too far, I think that you're doing amazing things. I look forward to seeing more work evolve out of you. And the idea for an AI feature-length film, that's so sick. I hope that that ends up being executed in some way or the other by you at some point, and hopefully I can participate in some way, just as a collector or even more so, like who knows. But I'm really excited for the future of this space. And I think that you're an incredibly sound part of this space. So I hope that you continue on following those passions and exploring. And I appreciate you coming through today, man. It's been amazing.
Thank you for everything that you said, and I really do appreciate what you do for the space and for inviting me onto your podcast. And yeah, I'm just as excited. I really am excited for what's coming up next, and I hope we talk a few years from now and we're like, remember back when? and like
Yeah, right. I
look
think we
back on this
will.
podcast and see how much of what we were were thinking about would happen actually does happen. I'll hope most of it happens, but we'll see where. I mean, it would probably be totally different than we imagined, but hopefully a lot of the core values and ideas are still there.
100%. It'll be exciting to see how it all unfolds, and every day is a new opportunity to enjoy this space, contribute to it, push it forward. So, yeah, man, I think this has been super awesome. I can't wait to listen back to this and absorb even more. And overall, man, like, thanks again so much for coming through. I appreciate your kind words as well. And it's been amazing chatting with you today, brother. So thank
Yeah,
you.
same here. Thanks for inviting me.
Hell yeah. Well, Chikai, thanks again. You're absolutely in it, Five the Art, that's for sure. And I'll talk to you soon. I look forward to seeing what else happens next and the work that you create. And yeah, man, it's been a pleasure. So I'm going to
Yeah,
wrap this one. Um, but yeah, thanks so much again. It's been awesome.
of course, of course. Thanks, and yeah, let me know when it comes out so I can help
For sure.
sort of like retweet and stuff. But I'm excited to see this. Well, this one. I always it's always hard to listen to my own podcast. We'll see if I listen to it myself. I'm excited to listen to your other ones that you put out. Sure.
Thank you, man. Means a lot. All right, brother. Much
All
love.
right.
Have a great rest of your day.
You
Thanks
too.
for coming through.
Bye.
Later.